Okay, so we have a few questions that we kind of have to answer. And I will start it by reading something out. Quartus was once a hunter for the Serpentine Order. He turned away from the Order at a later time to pursue his own path. It wasn't known why he abandoned the Order, but when word came from the followers of Crikos that had risen from the Ayyevian, it was later found out that he had raised the group of mercenaries under the banner of Crikos, the Titan of the Sea. There were even rumors that he was taken by the Whisper, and this was the reasoning of his abandoning of the Order. But this cannot be confirmed at this point. What was known is he was the best at capturing monarchs and keeping them alive, for they were separated from their leash holders. It was a lost art. For you see, many can die on their return to Symphony Citadel. There was a strange art, and what it came to be. There was a strange art when it came to being captured for the monarchs. To understand this, must one understand what exactly a monarch was. And here's where the problems start arising. In Adranna, the gifted ones, or otherwise ones who could channel the Forgotten King's power, would eventually be rounded up and put into the system under Adryrix. It was there that they would be given a teacher, one who would be next to them for their entire lives, as a teacher would siphon the power of the student. This was the prophets, and they could hold the magic power because of the students. So it's like their tools. Now these students were honestly more cursed than blessed, for they could never truly harness the power of the Forgotten King, but merely were stored away, unless a student showed potential, to which he was trained in becoming a monarch. Now every once in a while, one would come along that was said to be the Walker, or one who could transcend the realms. This was the student who would save the Forgotten King stuck in the other creation. This was a rare event indeed. And the Serpentine Order takes students whenever they can, most of the time. Just your average ones who could not harness the power, as those who could were quite hard to get to. That is until Quartus came along. He was said to have a true gift handling the students he took to the Serpentine. Even speculated that he himself was a mage like the prophets in Adranna. His story changes when he appears and is being controlled by a dream hunter, which happens later. When we happen upon Eris, it is known that perhaps he could be a walker, hidden away by his parents. That is where the Serpentine member Jahir tasks Cyprus to bring him to Symphony Citadel, and also where Quartus is chasing him. What needs to be discovered if this is to work is, first question, why does Quartus/Dream Hunter want him in the first place? Well, I think perhaps it's just because it's the Whisper. I can go into that more later. How well known are the Monarchs, and why wasn't Eris part of this? Is the biggest question. Huge fucking question. So here's a couple arguments and counter-arguments to that. I believe that he was, and why I believe this I shall state now. In the first chapter I believe, or maybe this is second, I can't remember, when he is at the market stall, it is mentioned that he was reading himself. He's reading and planning for himself to go to college. Now we could say that perhaps he would be going into service of the Monarchs. And the counterpoint, then if this was the case, the whole story would change. He would be groomed for service and not emerge as a kid who discovers his power. This cannot be, and he must have been hidden away by his parents. Counter to that we must come to understand how these kids are found, and what does it mean to be found. Even more important is, how does this serve the story? At this point, I don't see how. So in order for this to work, I believe that the Monarchs are a secret to the average citizen in Adranna. Now this could work if the police state truly exists that was thought of in the beginning. I think what I'm planning is, and you have to be really careful. At least I do, because I don't know, like, what do I instantly see? Oh, this could be like fucking mages put into the circle, and all of a sudden it's Dragon Age. You know, it's like fuck. Yeah, I'm aware of that stuff, and that's kind of makes me think, well, maybe I should just kind of steer away from it because I don't want to ever get caught up in someone pointing out that, hey, dude, you totally just copied Dragon Age right there. It's not on purpose. It's just like that's kind of what is slowly happening. So I don't know if I should trust my instincts and just roll with this and just say, no, this is exactly what happens, or uh, try to think of something new. So what I'm going to try to do is I'll keep that in the back burner. I'll channel the idea with the mages and Dragon Age, and then that if all else fails, kind of thing. So if you rebuke that, or try to come up with new stuff. So I guess we'll just try to make up some arguments for that. So that means I'm going to pull up some documents to try to see if I can help understand possibly how I can and can't do this. There we go. Alrighty. And we talked about in the last one a bit about a Jurik's Chantry. We never talked about this part of the Jurik's Chantry. So that's where it gets a little, dicey. So let's talk about, I guess we'll start with the circle according to the whta, and we'll just kind of work our way from there. Because this is going to be the other side. This is what they're doing. I guess we'll use that to understand what what the Juriks are doing to these touched ones, whatever you want to call them. I don't know yet. I kind of say touched ones a lot. That's the only one that ever comes to mind. But I mean, that could obviously change. I mean, a lot of things will change. The problem is I don't want to get lost and veer away from the story to add a new thing. That's really a scary thought, where you have something you've been working so long on, and you might add something new, and all of a sudden it's you could fuck it all up. It's terrifying, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, let's give it a go. The circle, according to the whta. They had created the religion that had spread through Adranna and even southern countries like Faramire and Eastern Tantorum. It was created under the guise of the figurehead of the order that were once keepers, now only known as the whta. The leader Eustace. He now sees over the transformation of descendants. That's what I called them at one point, descendants. When it came to the master and the lamb, two would enter the realm, and one would leave, thus becoming the master. Within the realm, it was known as the realm of madness. The longer one stayed, the more he became driven insane, thus rendering him useless. As for what becomes of the men and women that never leave the other realm, with their defeated souls now lost, they inhabited other realm. In their weakened state, and pronounced the whta. Okay, so this is veering, but it's giving me an idea. So the original concept, I guess I wrote, was this whole the whta, right? The first sentence alone. They created the religion that had spread through Adranna, and even southern countries like Faramire and Eastern Tantorum. It was created under the guise of the figurehead in the order that were once keepers, now known as the whta. If I go about that, then I'm connecting the whta with the Adranna. And that's not how I envisioned it. I envisioned that separate and not the same. If it is the same, there's a... Oh, Christ, dude. Essentially, what it's going to mention is there's this thing called the Master and the Lamb where the teacher takes the student. He he shows him how to harness his power to go into the realm of the astral. And at that moment is when the teacher or the student comes out the winner. And whoever the winner is becomes a member of the Serpentine Order. The thing about this, though, is the Serpentine are all Fachu, or all Anaku. So if they're taking kids from Adranna, some of them are Anaku, some of them are human. What if the human wins out? Is it indoctrination? Are they planting in their mind to help them wipe out the human race? Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? There's a big plot hole right there. Oh, crikey. That's not good. So a whole lot of stuff can fall apart because of that right there, if I don't figure something out. Christ, dude, that sucks. Unless you edit and you take everything from that Serpentine was doing and you put it into Adranna, the Master of the Lamb thing, and then the one who wins. No, that would be the opposite because that's their leash holder. Fuck, man. The only way I can make that work is to say that Adranna is a Naku. That's the only way I can make it work. They're all the Naku. There is no human beings that intermingled like I thought maybe. That could possibly be it. That could be something that works. Is that something I want to do? I feel a little bit leery about that one. That's something I need to think about. So remember, if you truly want to make this work and keep it as it is, what the Serpentine are trying to do, you need only make them a Naku. But if you make them a Naku, that doesn't make any sense as to how they can get to the Forgotten King. I think I just have to take out one line then. The Master and the Lamb. When the Master goes in, he kills the Lamb. Sometimes the Lamb can kill the Master, to which they leave him there. Yeah, it has to be. The Master is always an Anaku. I can make that work too. So, with the Master being an Anaku, it doesn't mean, well, if the Lamb wins, then he's there, and then it's a human being. I could just say, no, they're purely always a Naku. And there always is a winner of the Master, to which is how the Anaku gain their power. Because you see, they're fading from the world. Because why wouldn't they be? They're elves, right? They're fading from the world. So that's the only way they can gain power is by stealing it and siphoning it. Which is essentially exactly what mankind's doing to their creator. Oh, God. It's getting that straight. It's going to be tough. And then also getting straight, okay, the Men of Stone. The bodies of these slain ones, these descendants, these future monarchs, turned to stone. To which I believe it was said that the serpentine just kind of tossed it aside, throw them away, whatever. What is Quirtus and the other men of stone? Well, they're the ones originally that safeguarded the Forgotten King and were cursed. But then it was like, well, maybe Quinlan. I don't know if I said Quirtus, I meant Quinlan. Maybe Quinlan. And then one idea with Quinlan was he was the first one to have had his soul harnessed, lost his body, and then he was helped by the cult of Thessaria, and the same cult that birthed Eris. That was the end of their idea. Like, this is a lot of shit. That's got to get straight. How can you continue with the story until you understand this kind of stuff? Okay, so we can make it work with Adranna, with the new things I'm adding. That can work. The stealing of them can work still. The retraining of them, quote, retraining, but in reality, they're trying to get them to open the portal. That can still work. The Master and Lamb thing can still work. It's thinking about the men of stone. Because here's the second version of what it was. With their defeated lost souls now inhabiting the other realm in their weakened state, unbeknownst to the whta, the Forgotten King would gather them and demand their fealty and devotion for his purpose. You see, these weakened souls did not lack emotion any longer, and allow the Forgotten King to have conduits of emotion to allow him to gain control back in the mortal realm. Are those the middle spirits? The sacrificed souls, do they become the middle spirits? Because essentially they were like, not euthanized, they were castrated emotionally. Again, like the fucking Dragon Age. But they were taught that through calibrated control. Calibrated control could be as simple as guiding control through a clear and just philosophy, taking human empathy and gearing it towards philosophy, which allow turns the masses of consciousness to be manipulated. It's the idea of the what Adranna teaches. Now it could be taken more so with the walkers, with the descendants, that they void them of emotion. So when the Forgotten King channels through them, there's not a lot of emotion that's already within those students for the Forgotten King to ambush with and use in his madness. The whole story of the Forgotten King even doing it in the first place is not really of man's doing, it's just a counteract of it. So these kids have to be part of a divine race or something, I don't know. I mean, they become adults too, I just think of them as kids right now. So, I mean, that's kind of tough, man. But yeah, I mean, I could say that, and maybe that's what the middle spirits are. But as soon as I do that, it's gonna fuck with what Kevin's got going on. Let's think about that one for a little bit. Anyway, they become the men of stone, a hive-like mind that does the true bidding of the Forgotten King. They have been void of their humanity, and like grunts, they obey any command by the Forgotten King. This was unknown to the whta. They believed that these weakened souls were useless and powerless even. Thus, their attention was averted elsewhere. Those masters that have defeated the weaker ones or the lambs leave the realm and come back and are promoted to the Serpentine Order. The Serpentine Order are masters in the school of the whta, which is a school off of Adrix. They have transcended the other realm and hazarded the insanities, thus stripping their humanity and strengthening their weakest layer, their bodies. They look to quell the bleeding of the realms in order to bring balance. They fight any that oppose. Agents of the Whispers, Forgotten King, even the very Adrix members. It is the duty of the Serpent Order to bring the balance and stability to Yuandra. Though a select group of scholars look to knowledge to vanquish evils of Voss, the Serpentine, now with a power from the creation realm, have the ability to pull from the astral and use it against their enemies, traveling to and from any other realm with the sacrifices. Because the souls of those kids go into the pendant, and when the pendant gets used up, the kid turns to stone. In their house of life they work to stay the thread of the whisper, and even the Forgotten King. But for their battle could bring the known world to nothingness. They see the big battle and know it will bring ruin because of a few ancient beings fighting. Essentially, they don't like the Forgotten King or the Whisper. They look to crush them both. The Serpentine Order do. So that's kind of at all costs kind of thing. Now, the reason the Serpentine were made was because of a gun whta, who was a member of a Adrix Chantry, but he was an Anaku. And he decided with a friend to create a whole new school of thought, essentially, like if you were to boil it down. And it was they who made the Serpentine Order. So, I mean, they saw the whole take the kids and train them how to control this problem, calibrated control. The dress philosophies of a Adrix Chantry, which could totally be a separate teaching from the average people of Aval. Totally average. People don't know anything about this shit. Maybe. I'd say the deep shit they don't know about. I think the average, the barrier and the fog of lies and living a good life, and I think they know about that shit because they're human beings. But with Adrix's real games, they don't tell the citizens that's what's going on. They're training these kids, these touched ones, these descendants, into possibly harnessing the power of the Forgotten King if they can. If they can't, they become these docile kids that they got to kind of keep in calibrated control and have, put them in this, a sane asylum essentially for the rest of their lives. The ones that show potential are then trained, and when they're trained, they could become the Monarchs. The Monarchs are the rulers. It has nothing to do with where you were, whose family you were born in, but becoming a monarch is that. And some of the monarchs might have potential to become a walker, which is very fucking rare. A couple 100 years went by until the next one appeared. The last one before Freyden. So it shows you how fucking rare that is. That becomes the leader of the entire Adranna of mankind. Because I think if we're going to gear it like this, I think we got to gear Adranna around the idea of that their concepts and all their lives are wrapped around the Forgotten King and everything with him. They're not living another life, and average people don't give a fuck. And this is just a little thing that some people are thinking about. We would have to gear their whole civilization around freeing their king and understanding the problems with him. But would that work? I don't know. Is that a possibility? I don't know. Mass and the Lamb for the sacrifice of descendants. They relied solely on the blood of the descendant of the Forgotten King, to which the term lamb was coined. But in time, they found a way to access the realm without a sacrifice. They used to use like blood magic back in the day. Over the centuries, descendants have been harder and harder to find, to get. Though a magical device saw to the advancement into the new age of the whta. After many years, descendants have become scarce, and a strange creation of the pendant allowed them to continue a stable balance. The pendant had the soul of said descendant. It would last far longer and even allow a smoother transition into the other realm. Though eventually, the pendant would become used up after a time, and this would turn the husk of the descendant into stone. Dude, I have a thought. What if there's a man in the chantry on the inside, a man on the inside, who's selling these fucking docile kids the serpentine to harness their blood in this pendant? That'd be a fucked up story. I could use that story and say it's that chick. I wrote a little short story about this woman who, right at the end, begging for her life, realizing how fucked up it all was at what she was doing. And there was no repenting for her in the eyes of this man, and he just killed her. She was holding all these people in some sort of fucking dark building. I don't mean dark as in like, it's not a lot of lights on. I mean like just wicked building. Sinister and evil. And she was holding them there. What if that's what's going on? What if some of them are being sold for some sort of weird gain, profit? I mean, these poor kids are being used by prophets too. To which they're just mages. Prophets are. Siphoning off the power of these kids. That could be a total possibility. Getting Eris caught up in all this, man. Here's what the original Men of Stone are. The Men of Stone. They were once the descendants of the Forgotten King, now their bodies used by the whta. Bled they were at first, but now found their souls being trapped in the pendant as a tool, until that very pendant was destroyed, with their soul along with it. Their bodies turned to stone, and those who survived were cast aside and imprisoned. It was the Men of Stone that placed the Forgotten King as their figurehead in their rhetoric, and in turn they serve him only. Not like the blinded lambs that fell with the Forgotten King, which I don't know what those were. As for their view on them, it's a very piteous story, and the using of the Forgotten King madness to create an outlook making him seem crazed and wicked. Throwing in these souls of emotion or emotionless, right? What were they doing? Unbeknownst to the keeper part. With their defeated lost souls now inhabiting the other realm, the original, when they did the blood sacrifice, in their weakened state, unbeknownst to whta, the Forgotten King would gather them and demand their fealty and devotion for his purpose. These weakened souls did not lack emotion any longer. The Forgotten King was allowed to have conduits of emotion to allow him to gain control back in the mortal realm. So these souls go in there, and they had no emotion, to which the Forgotten King puts emotions in them, creates them like a tinker, and sends them to the world. Is that what the middle spirits could be? That was the idea? If that's the idea, then down here it says, the Men of Stone, that's from the pendant. As for their view on the pity, okay. So they serve the Forgotten King. They're not blinded like the lambs, the previous ones that fell in. As for their view of these ones, the Men of Stone, It was a very piteous story, and they're using the Forgotten King's madness to create an outlook, making him seem crazed and wicked, taking advantage of their weakened state in order to do his bidding. It's just like a secondary group. These middle spirits are the souls of these poor kids. It would make the whta Serpentine Order bigger, even more sinister. Does it make sense that this small group is doing this to these children, these kids, and they were already, before the fucking Serpentine got a hold of them, they were already drained of their fucking emotions because they simply weren't, quote, good enough to be these fucking siphons for these mages. So they were sent to this fucking school. And then this is where this corrupted woman was sitting, and she sent these fucking kids and helped the Serpentine Order, to which they used them and just threw them away. And now these kids' souls inhabit their own creation, because it's the whata's first thought to weaken the Forgotten King with this confusion. But in reality, he was gaining them and putting emotions in them to send back to the world to help and guide us. I think if we're going to do that, we need to discover what the middle spirits are. Find old texts and say, okay, what's the middle spirit? What exactly is it? See if it matches up. I think I have something somewhere about the middle spirits. Trying to remember where I'm looking. Because I remember there was... What are they? Whose side are they on? Why must it be sadness between love and fear? These are the demons of fear and the guardians of love, emotions that totally branch from these. Yet what are the ones that come from both? This path is what is explored by Eris. I can feel. What is it that I meant by that? Ancient people. Those who inhabit the other realm, one collective consciousness they are. He stopped and looked at the boy. What was being discovered there? He looked at the boy long and hard, studying his face. When one travels into the astral realm, you unlock the potential. What could not be done now can. You are at one with emotion, or with creation. The world of possibilities and knowledge. You are never fully present, so it cannot gather all of you. So it feels strange, because you are not fully present. You go with no intention, and you are given this knowledge, but you cannot decipher it. It's like death, or what we know as death. That is meditation. For through meditation, that is the closest death you will come, and not enter. It is our home, our place where we belong, back with the Creator, yet that is another place entirely. It's hard to explain this, son. I cannot put it to any words for you to understand, for it is different to everyone. Then how are the forgotten people able to explore it? It's individual for them too, right? How could they comprehend it together? You are smart, he exclaimed. The forgotten people were consciously higher than us, for they experienced together. Collective consciousness unified them, so experience was shared. But let's not speak of it anymore, for we will be here for centuries. You cannot fully ascend, for you must leave your body to do so. The other realm, or astral realm, cannot be explained. Only other knowledges can be given. It is a place created by God, a place of creation, and a place of purity. That's something weird. I seem to remember writing something about the forgotten people. Let's just say these are the kids. The forgotten people. The people of the forgotten king. They were forgotten, thrown away in these camps. These descendants were tossed into these fucking insane asylums, right? Thus labeling them forgotten people. The forgotten people that were touched by greed or fear turned to the dark ones. Take character from there. Okay. Forgotten people became the dark ones. We now fear them in our nightmares. I remember all that. Cursed. Now to come back. And these forgotten people, or the middle spirits they're called. The demons of fear and guardians of love, emotions that totally branch away from these. What are the ones that come from both? Yeah, that has to be it. These poor kids. The conduits of the past bring us one step closer to the key. Conduits are the chosen ones, looked at by the select few who wish to obtain the plan from the Creator. The conduit is, the best way to describe it, turned into the God's frequency, tuned into. Though they learn to harness the gift through empathy, they are equally in tune with man's collective mind. Some have had gift but did not know of it. We have created a safe haven for these few, to pull them away from man's consciousness and grasp, so they are made to hear uninterrupted the voice of the Creator. They live a hard life, full of emotional turmoil and pain, a heavy burden they carry, so we give them refuge from madness, though none have come. We are a group of spiritual scholars. Everything we've learned were men forgotten in time, men who have done so much for our world, yet they were never known because of agents of darkness. This is like the call for these people. This is like what the prophets would be saying for these kids. Calling them to. It's a safe haven. It's good for you here. Don't worry about it. It's a hard life for you, isn't it? Well, we have a safe haven here for you. These prophets, man. And that's how they get them. And then they use them, if they can. Where did I write about the middle spirits too? Let's see if I can find something. Sometimes it happens where you just start turning pages and then whatever you happen upon helps you. Remember something that's going to tell a story. Where did I write about that? he was in this one. I'll find it. I'll find it. I found it before. I just don't remember what journal it was in. Why don't you pause it? Yes. I don't know. Harder to do. I think it's in the yellow one. It must be. I'll find this motherfucker. Sucks, it's like, I know I have it somewhere. Tanto. Yeah. Oh, Tantorum. I think, yeah, it's... Treant King, blah blah blah. The implementation of pendants for those not in tune with the gods allows them to pass through the realm. To its life. Yeah, I don't remember where I wrote that. I really don't. Son of a bitch, man. It always happens. It's like, what the fuck was I, you know? I think it's... Feels like it'd be in this one. Little spirit, friend, where are you? The fucking journals of my madness. There's the whisper. The void, the cave. Order of the sun. Empire. Callium. The runes. Nacum. Chronicles. Fucking A, dude. I don't remember which one it was in. I can see it exactly in my head. I know what it looks like when I would see it. I just don't know which book it would be in. Which journal. Something that needs to be marked, apparently. It's really damn important that we have it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I really would love to be able to say that I know where that's at. I think it's anyway. Love or fear? What? Well, this one's easy. There are two most basic emotions for it. These are the gods, right? Probably the red one. Has to be, right? Oh, I see something. And that's not it. I lost it, man. Each realm is separate from the other, yet they overlap in a middle ground. Middle is like balance, understanding, and conscious. The one who can access these are the walkers. They can pass into all realms, in full spectrum. But going too deep into one realm opens the possibility of losing access to the other. Therefore, you're trapped. Oh, God. Does that even work anymore? Well, whatever. Oh, I feel sick. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll just kind of go from there and just, I mean, just we'll stop here and then we need to figure this out. I might have to like delete all those minutes of doing nothingness and scanning through pages. But if I go back to the document I was working on, how to make it work. So I'll write this out and I'll tell you what I say. Yeah, that word doesn't work. Isn't the schools? Very nose of Adranna. Okay. Okay. It is true that the monarchs are merely kids being used by the prophets. They are cast into the school to be taught. But when they show no potential for growth, they are left in asylums to rot. These are where we see that woman selling them to the Serpentine Order for profit, under the very nose of Adranna. These kids are lost to the system. In the system, they were taught calibrated control, a kind of castration of the mind to make them no longer a conduit, and also, more importantly, barren to the Whisperer's growth. A mental retardation, if you will. This happened to the kids that showed no potential or simply could not handle it. Not for those that showed true potential, that are then taken by the Serpentine. Well, before the use of the pendant, they were sacrificed to serve the Forgotten King, but in reality they were merely there to muddle his mind. Unbeknownst to the Serpentine, the Forgotten King was using these lost souls that were once void of emotion to now be his spirits, to aid him and send back to the mortal realm with whatever emotion he so deemed. They were called Forgotten People. That is what the Serpentine are doing. As for use them. As for Adrix, the kids that passed were then groomed for the mages to use them. The reason they persuaded the kids to do this was to be their helper and get them in the realm of politics. But in reality, as it was discovered, the prophet, or rather Adrix, was becoming more and more powerful in the realm of state. This was because they were holding the leash of the monarchs, or rather the ones who ruled Adranna in a democratic fashion. The mages would whisper in the ear of the monarchs and were believed to only be there to help them whenever they channeled the Forgotten King. But basically, they're just like, it's like, are they the Whisper's agents, these prophets? How do they get involved? Is this whole time the secret organization inside Adrerix, and they were actually this whole time the agents of the Whisper? That's why you see Martis? Or is it, no, there isn't good intent, but sometimes there's those bad ones? I don't know. Something to think about. I think, well, this is pretty good. We're going to save this. And it's going to, I don't know. I'm trying to think what I can call this file. The Monarchs. Let's call it that. Okay. I think that's where we're going to end it now. We're about an hour in. In 4 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, about an hour. So, alright. I think I'm done here. Until next time. I don't know where we're going to be, but we'll go somewhere.